down, people. So I just did a video yesterday on this Deputy Fuller fella that shot the off-duty cop, the wrong guy. And I was pretty hard on him. And here's his interview. And you know what? I would have been a lot harder on him on this interview. They soft shoot this interview. I'm going to tell you how this was conducted by the district attorney's office. They shared this interview. Kevin Tate, let's see, interview with Detective Craig Christensen and Detective Sergeant from Kensler. So I don't know whether this Detective Craig Christensen is from the DA's office. The DA's office released this video. So maybe they were trying to say, hey, this is why we didn't charge a guy, which is BS. It's bullshit. But anyway, let's see why it's bullshit, and I'll talk you through how this goes. Well, let's get back to this interview here, okay? If I was conducting this interview, I'm going to tell you how to do it. If you get feedback, I'll try to listen to it, and I'll try to minimize it, but I can't help it. All right? So here we go.
You, because you are the subject of the investigation, is there anything that would hinder you from giving a comprehensive, detailed, truthful statement at this time?
This has been very difficult, but I will do my best.
Nobody in this room would understand what you went through during the incident. It's incumbent upon you to make everyone understand in detail why it was reasonable to respond with the deadly force that you used.
So I'm going to use the term soft shoeing here a lot in this interview. And when I do, it means you set a guy up to give the answer that you want that will help him. Let me think of a good example. Isn't it true that you felt in fear of your life when you fired? That would be a soft shoe set up for an answer. They do this in here, but they do it a little bit more nonchalant when he doesn't give the right answer. I'm assuming an attorney's in there because somebody is saying, you just shook your head. Is that a yes or a no? And that's usually attorney lingo because they know head shakes won't show up in a transcript. So they want him to say yes or no. I'm surprised they didn't videotape this. Maybe they did and they only released the audio. But
Okay.
Okay. Were you equipped with any body-worn cameras or dash cams in your vehicle?
We don't have any of those. So I went around Officer Seam and I drove up. And then that's when I drove up to the house. Sorry.
so he gets emotional. There's a lot of crying. And the crying doesn't, look, I get it. I'm not saying this guy's a mean, evil guy. Okay? He's a typical cop that has got told that it's okay to shoot when you're not sure of your target. And it's okay to shoot because you're a cop and you're not going to be charged. He's been set up to fail and now he failed. And he needs to suffer the consequences. I mean, it's kind of bullshit. Again, I don't think he's an evil guy. I don't think he went out that night and go, man, I'm going to kill me an off-duty cop. It doesn't matter. His mindset was I shoot when I don't know who I'm shooting, when I think I know who I'm shooting, and I know if I mess up and kill the wrong person, nothing's going to happen. That's a bad mindset for people to run out with guns, and that's how cops run out with guns. So this guy crying and all this, look, I get it. He feels bad. He killed an innocent dude. I get it. But every criminal I've ever interviewed that was looking at prison time usually cried and felt bad. So it doesn't mean a whole bunch to me.
Matches the glass and who generally matches the glass update that I had.
So he says, I'll have to go back because I don't want to cut it off.
So I pulled up to the front of the house.
So I pulled up in front of the house.
And I see a person who...
I see a male. I see a person. So he's kind of, I would call him on that. I wouldn't let him get away with that. I'd be like, you just said you saw a male and then you saw a person. Which one was it? Was it a male or did you just see a person? Because if he just saw a person, then the rest of his statement doesn't make sense. And he just said, I saw a male, I saw a person. Which one was it? And these interviewers aren't doing it. They're soft showing it. They're letting him get away with this. And guess what? The DA heard the interview and he went, yeah, we'll let him go. Sounds good to me. Nobody has interviewed this guy. I'm going to ask hard questions, and if I was interviewing him, this is how I'd be interviewing him.
Who generally matches the last update that I had.
Generally matches the last subject that you had. When you say generally matches, what does that mean? Explain to me how he matched, then explain to me what was the last subject, and how do you know that wasn't the homeowner? Did you positively 100% identify him as the suspect? And he would say no, but that doesn't sound good. And these guys aren't doing it. See, to me, that gives cops credibility. I don't really give a shit if the DA chart. If I'm investigating this, I don't give a shit what the DA does. The DAs are fucked up. The judges are fucked up. I don't care. That's not how I do my job is to be honest, do my job with integrity, and get to the freaking truth. And then what everybody else does with that truth, I ain't got no control. But I do have control on how I conduct an interview and whether or not I get to the truth. These investigators or detectives did not do that.
Tan skin male, white black combination of shirt and jeans.
Combination of shirt and jeans. What color was his shirt? What color was his jeans? Is that the same thing that came over the radio? Did you get multiple descriptions? You have one description. Did you ever get a description of the homeowner? Do you even know what the homeowner looks like? You know he's an ex-cop. How do you know it wasn't the homeowner? That question is never asked.
That person is running back towards what I can see as a gun.
So now it's that person is running back. Earlier it was I saw a person, I saw a male. Which one is it? You said the person is running back. Is this a male? Is this a female? Or can you not tell?
Laying on the ground. As I pull up, that person reaches down and gets for the gun. As he does that, he looks right at me.
This is kind of where I think they really should have gotten a little bit more in depth on. As he did that, he looked right at you. What do you mean he looked right at you? You have flashing lights and headlights. Do you think he saw you and he recognized you? Do you think he knew it was a cop? Yeah, he knew it was a cop because my lights were on and my siren was on. Okay, so when you said he looked right at you, does that mean you think he saw your face or you think he recognized the car as a police unit? You don't know, you're guessing. I don't know what he saw. I know he looked directly, if I was being asked that, he looked up directly at me and it appeared he was looking either at the car or at me in the car. I don't know which one. That's an honest question and an honest answer. Never ask. No, let's not trip him up. He may give us an answer that can be used against him, and we don't want to do that. We want to let him get away with this. Okay.
But it's all very fluid, very fast. Looks at me, reaches down, grabbing the gun, takes hold of the gun, and runs back to the house.
Okay, so they let him get away with this. He, very fluid, very fast, but he looked at me. He looked directly at me. Okay, so he looked directly at you, but it was very fluid, very fast. He grabbed the gun, picked it up, and ran back to the house. When he did that, did you confirm his description? Did you confirm his height, weight? Was any of that going through? And it probably wasn't. I'm not saying he would have good answers to these questions. And even if he didn't have a good answer, I'm not saying that makes him any more guilty or innocent. But it makes a thorough investigation to probe, like I would anybody, to probe into his mind. Maybe facts will come to thing and I will get a closer image of what he was actually thinking. This guy pretty much gets to this interview by saying, I saw a guy run in the house with a gun. He kind of matched the general description, and I saw him trying to get in the house. So I shot him because I knew if he got in, he'd kill everybody. Never do they ask, what about the innocent people? How do you know that wasn't the homeowner? How do you know who was in the house? How do you know he would have killed them if he got in the house? He didn't kill anybody at the robbery, did he? No. He didn't even fire the gun, did he? No. Did he shoot at you when he picked up the gun? No. He turned away and ran from you. Why did you think he was so dangerous that he would kill everybody if he got in there? Why didn't they ask that? I mean, he may have a good answer, but I hate cops that do this bullshit interview and then they let the pesky citizens sit around and the DA pass it off as, hey, you know, he was in fear and he followed the statute and it says in fear of your life or in fear of others. He even says in an interview, I was never in fear of my life. What was the urgency of firing? Why didn't you not fire? Could you have not fired? Are you aware the Supreme Court has ruled you don't have to act? Are you aware that a cop stayed outside of a school in a shooting and didn't shoot and they didn't find anything wrong? Why did you feel that you had to shoot an unconfirmed target? And he would either said, it was a confirmed target. He matched the description exactly. That's why I knew it was him. And he would look like he's lying. And I want to hear that, because I don't think he knew. I think he jumped out. He was hyped up from the chase. He passed another unit to get there first. He jumped out of the car, and he wanted to be the guy to shoot first and be the hero. It's bullshit. It is a bullshit shooting, and they gave him an interview to where we'll never get to the truth. Got a bump because there's a lot of pauses.
Tahoe Park. I put my Tahoe in park.
I put my Tahoe in park. He remembers that. Remembers him looking at him. He remembers a general description. He remembers the male or a person. Remembers putting his car Tahoe in park.
I got out.
Got out.
And I could see the shadow of something went through the front door.
He saw a shadow or something that went through the front door. They never follow up with a question. Who did you think went through the front door? How do you know it wasn't a bad guy? How do you know it wasn't a homeowner? Well, because he picked up a gun. Yeah, but he didn't point the gun at you, did he? No. Did he threaten you with the gun? No. Were you ever in fear of your life? No. Then why did you shoot a guy in the back of an unknown target in the middle of the night when you knew there was a cop there off duty and they were fighting over a gun? Why did you decide to shoot when you don't know any of the answers that I'm asking you? Well, I knew if he got in there that he would kill everybody. How do you know that? How do you know he'd kill everybody? He didn't shoot anybody at the store. He didn't shoot at you. They let this guy soft shoe a freaking interview. And as an experienced cop and interviewer, I understand this. I can see right through this interview. Dude, you basically held this guy's hand to talk him through and let him say that he was in fear of someone else. The only thing this interview wanted, there's only two ways you can use deadly force. You're in fear of your life or you're in fear of other people's lives. That's it. He said he wasn't in fear of his life. So the last thing he's got is he was fear of other people's lives. So he has to stick with that story that I thought he was going to kill everybody. But it's not reasonable. Why does he think that? Nobody asked.
And it looked like it closed. The male that I saw pick up the gun. I saw him run to the front door.
Now he's back to male. It was person, now we're back to the male.
And he's making movements to get in the door. I gave him commands.
This is critical. I gave him commands. When I saw him jump out of the car, I don't know how he got commands out. Unless he yelled them before he even got out of the car. He says, I gave him commands. Later, he says, I'm sure I gave one. Here, he's saying I gave commands. Which one is it? Do they call him on it? No!
To get on the ground. I didn't see any response from the...
I gave him commands to get on the ground. That means more than one. They didn't ask, was it two? Was it three? You just said commands. That's plural. How many times did you tell him to get on the ground? They didn't ask.
Those commands. He's actively trying to get in the door. I'm not sure if he's trying to kick it, if he's trying to beat on it. I can see that he's trying to get in.
I see him trying to get in the door. Okay. Again, they don't ask. How do you know that's not the homeowner? They never ask. How do you know that's not? That is a reasonable and prudent question that anybody should ask before I shoot. I know there's a homeowner here. I know he's an off-duty cop. I know he's got a gun. I know the suspect has a gun. We have 2 guns involved and 2 people. It's at night. I can't really make out their clothes that well. I've gotten multiple descriptions. A reasonable and prudent person would go, I don't know which one is the good guy and bad guy. I can't shoot. It's unreasonable to shoot. They let him walk on it.
At that moment, I knew I had an armed robber, someone who robbed a convenience store with a gun.
At that moment, I knew I had an armed robber. Well, wait a minute. How do you know you had an armed robber? Again, he gets to make conclusions to support his side, and he's never questioned on it. He didn't know he had an armed robber. In fact, you didn't have an armed robber, did you? You had a homeowner, an ex-cop, trying to get in to save his wife's life that you claimed to be saving, and you shot him in the back. Isn't that what happened? I mean, Rick, you can't question like bullshit. I can't question, especially if he's got an attorney. He's giving a statement. I want to give a hard statement and question facts and see if he can back up what he's saying, or is this a made-up story that he's going to fold as soon as I call him on it?
I knew someone who was completely evading law enforcement and didn't want to be caught by their driver.
He was completely evading law enforcement, doing it, but that's not the guy you shot. See, he's painting this picture that he knew that was this guy. So he's giving all these justifications, which he's correct. A fleeing violent felon, you can shoot. He's a violent felon. He committed an armed robbery. It's a violent felony. I got it. You can shoot him in the back. I'm okay with that. But you gotta make sure it's him. You can't have a black dude run into a crowd of 5 people and they're all wearing the same clothes and you shoot them all. And then get to say, well, they all matched the description and I knew one of them was a violent felon and so I shot them all. Oh, okay, well, that's okay then. Because that's pretty much what he's doing. He's giving a story and selling his narrative. The guy was a bad guy. He had a gun. He committed an armed robbery. He ran from the cops. He was really dangerous. So I had to shoot him. You didn't even know who he was. You never saw him. You shot him in the back. It was at night. You said you gave multiple commands. Later, you're going to say I gave one command. It happened so quick. How did you identify that he was actually the suspect? He can't answer he did because it wasn't the suspect. But they never ask.
Driving actions and by what they were doing. I knew there was a fight with a homeowner and a law enforcement officer.
So he knew he was in a fight with a homeowner and a law enforcement. Did one of these investigators, one of these top crack investigators could have asked, well, when you shot him, did it ever enter your mind that may be the cop and that may have been a homeowner? I bet you he'd have said no. That's not reasonable. It should have entered his mind. But I think he would have answered no. It didn't enter his mind. When I saw him pick up the gun and I saw him match the description, I saw him trying to get in the door, I thought he was the guy. That would have probably been an honest response to what he said. But the question is, did you ever stop and consider that might be the homeowner? No, I didn't. That's not reasonable. That's not prudent.
I knew there was a gun that had been dropped.
Who thinks that any citizen who had a gun, hell, even me as a fucking retired officer, if I did that, they would charge me. They would absolutely charge. They would charge anybody that shot the wrong person because they didn't know who it was. They would label you as a right-wing crazy gun owner. That's why we need to take the guns. That's why you shouldn't have high-capacity mags. They would come up with all these excuses as anybody did what this cop did. Meanwhile, these two detectives, these two dicks, let this guy soft shoe an interview, never ask one hard question.
And I just watched someone pick it up and run towards the house. And someone who resembled what I was given as a last description of that.
Now, we're back to what resembled. Well, when you say resembled, we still haven't had him clarify what resembled mean. Were they the same size? Was one bigger than the other? Do you know how much he weighed? Did you recognize his clothing? Do you know what the homeowner was wearing, the guy you shot? Did his clothes anywhere match the bad guy? No, it didn't. I don't even know, but I bet you it didn't. It didn't match because they'd be touting that. If it did, they would be putting that everywhere. The homeowner was wearing almost the exact same thing as the suspect, and it was easy for the officer to confuse. Because they're not saying that, I guarantee you, the homeowner was wearing nothing like the suspect. Did they ask him that? Did they ask him the different? Of course not. This is a bullshit interview. Cops protecting cops. This is why nobody trusts them. This is why nobody believes them. And this is why there is no more integrity in law enforcement. It's just a freaking good old boy blue gang
person to be the suspect. So I believed that if that person got in that house, they would kill them.
I didn't hear what he said.
that if that person got in the house, they'd kill them.
So I knew that if that person got in the house, he would kill them. How did you know that? What led you to believe that? Again, he didn't shoot anybody when he robbed, did he? He didn't shoot at the cops when he was being chased, did he? He didn't shoot when you threw spikes underneath his tires, did you? He didn't shoot when he wrecked his car and ran. He didn't shoot when he was in front of your car and he picked up the gun and looked directly at you. And he didn't point the gun at you and he didn't shoot, did he? So how did you know that he was going to kill people? This interview is so cheesy, and most people will watch this and feel sorry for him because he's crying. He made a mistake. He didn't mean to do it. I get it, but it's a bullshit interview. Don't try and pack sand up my ass and tell me it feels good. It's bullshit.
And I had to stop that person from getting in and hurting those innocent people.
Innocent people. Suddenly, all of a sudden, cops care about innocent people. Every day we see cops shooting innocent people, shooting with people in the background, shooting at a dog and killing. Happened in Dallas. Dog ran up to a guy shot it, ended up killing the person that owned the dog that was laying down. Killed her because he shot the dog. He was scared. Spirit of his life. I mean, every day we see cops playing this game. One cop stands outside while kids are getting shot, and the Supreme Court goes, he's got no duty to act. Next day, guy sprays and prays, kills 2 people, kills an innocent person, hits a kid. Hey, fear of his life, he was protecting the public. That's why there's no credibility or trust in our system that holds cops accountable. Therefore, cops are unaccountable. Therefore, nobody trusts them. Therefore, when they get shot, nobody cares. Nobody has faith in them. Nobody wants to help them. Nobody likes them. Meanwhile, we're lowering the standard. We're hiring people with no standards, and we don't hold people accountable because we can't have standards because we got to hire people because of what bathroom they use and what color they are.
So I fired my gun multiple times.
They
tried to assess if they were being effective by watching through my optic, as we've all been trained.
Oh, wait a minute. Did he say he fired? Or he leveled his gun? Hang on, let me go back to that.
And hurting those innocent people. So I fired my gun.
Oh, so I fired my gun.
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
They tried to assess if they were being effective by watching through my optic, as we've all been trained.
And tried to assess if they were effective looking through my... he's kind of rattling off bullshit trying to make it sound,
Center mass. So I put my optic on center mass on that person, which was their torso, and fired rounds.
When you shot, did you know who you were shooting? Well, I thought it was an armed robber, and I didn't ask that. When you shot, did you know who you were shooting? His answer would be no, because he shot the wrong guy. They don't ask. Well, we don't want to ask because he might give us the wrong answer. And then he would lose his defense. Just like the Dallas girl, the little blonde, that was sexing with her other sergeant that she was sleeping with to get promoted or whatever and got on the special duty. And she ended up going in the wrong house, shot a black guy because she went to the wrong floor. She took the stand, and the prosecutor asked her tough questions. And she slipped up and said, I meant to kill him. And that's why she was convicted of murder. I don't think she meant to kill him. I think she shot because she was fear of life. She shot center mass. She didn't mean to kill him. But he got her to stay on a stand, I meant to kill him, which checked the box of murder. And she was convicted of murder. Shouldn't have been. It was bullshit conviction. But she was. And they don't ask him hard questions like that. He gets a pass.
I saw the person... As I was assessing, I saw the person step away from the door and back up to the wall and slide down.
Step away from the door, back up to the wall, and slide down. Yeah, that's because you just killed him.
As the person slid to the ground, I saw the gun fall out of their hand onto the ground.
You notice he's talking all these details? It's amazing what the mind can pick up in just a flash. I mean, these things that he's saying are milliseconds if you look at a video. And he's recalling all this because it was a critical incident. Now, Normally, those facts get clear later on. I don't know how long after the shooting this interview took place. But the longer it goes, facts will become more memorable. Because when you're in a critical incident and you're fighting and you're in fight or flight, remembering is not as important as surviving. So your mind and your survival instinct shuts down things that you don't need. Digestive, fingertips, toes, puts all the blood into large muscle groups. Fight or flight happens. But it turns off the memory because remembering isn't important. Surviving's important. You can remember later. And then the facts come clearer. So he's saying he backed up to the wall. He slid down the wall. I watched him drop the gun. Now, I don't know if he watched the video or if he's been allowed. He should not have been able to watch the video before he gave his statement. If they did, they've even set it up for more of a bullshit interview. But we don't know. We'll never know.
Shortly after that, I saw the garage door open and a female come running out of the garage, and she ran right by me to my left.
So he saw the garage door open and he saw the female coming out.
Moments later,
I would have probably asked at that point, you said you saw a female. How did you know she was a female? Rick, you can't ask. I want to know how you knew it was female. He should answer, I heard her high-pitched voice. It sounded like a female because she was screaming. That would have been an answer, but I would have asked, how do you know she was a female? Do you remember what she was wearing? Were her hands up? What she was saying? Did you challenge her? Did you point your gun at her? Why didn't you shoot her? Did you identify her as somebody not looking like the suspect? Okay, so that's why you didn't shoot her, but yet you shot the homeowner who didn't look like the suspect. Explain that to me. We don't want to ask that, Rick. We might get the wrong answer.
2 hands came out of the front door, eventually a whole body. It was another male.
Now he sees 2 hands come out of the front door and a whole body.
And somebody, I don't know who, yelled, "That's the suspect."
He heard somebody else yell, "That's the suspect." What? My question is, who yelled that? And why do you think he yelled that? What was the purpose of yelling that? I know why he yelled it. He wanted to make sure, hey, that's the suspect, that's not the cop. Other people are thinking, hey, there's a cop here. When he came out, somebody yelled, "That's the suspect," to make sure that everyone else knew, hey, that's the guy, don't drop your guard thinking that's an off-duty cop. He wanted to warn him.
That's something to that effect. That's the suspect. And then I realized now I'd shot the suspect, I'd shot the homeowner.
That I didn't shoot the suspect and I shot the homeowner. Now he breaks down here, and if you remember during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, if you saw Kyle on the stand, he went into a kind of panic attack or a fit when he was describing shooting and he was reliving the scene. This is very common. This dude gets very emotional right here because he's actually reliving this mistake, and every time he thinks it and relives it and explains it, it becomes more real to him. So I don't think he's faking his crying. I think this is a normal, reasonable reaction, and they end up taking a break so he can compose himself. I don't have a problem with that. You know, some people may think you'd be a dick to him and you're being an asshole. I'm not. I'm going to conduct an interview like I conduct an interview. I want to get answers. I want to understand. I don't want to leave any stone unturned. So when I finish that interview, nobody can come to me later and go, dude, you fucked that interview up. Why didn't you ask that? Why didn't you ask? And inevitably, they always will, because you'll never get it all. But you do such a thorough job that you try to cover every inch of every base so you don't miss something. These guys aren't asking shit. They're letting him tell his story. I mean, they ask a few questions when he comes back, but they were all soft shoe.
Who was an off-duty law enforcement officer? Things after that got a little blurry.
Things like that got a little blurry. That's a reasonable response. I get it. When you figure out you fucked up and your nuts shrivel up like chickpeas, and you're like, holy shit, I might be going to prison, even though most cops don't go to prison. They still think they might. They could. You never know. If this homeowner would have been black, he probably would be going to prison. But anyway, I digress. So him going blurry is reasonable. I mean, he just kind of like, fuck, I don't know what the fuck happened after that.
I know that. I saw like a bunch of people running up to him who I had shot. Somebody.
Now he's saying running up to him who I shot. Notice he's not referring to him as a suspect anymore because he knows he fucked up.
Went, I think, and took the suspect in the custody who was on the driveway. I don't remember much after that. Just thinking that I just stopped an armed suspect from killing these people, and I had in fact shot the homeowner and the off-duty officer.
So he says something to the effect, I thought I had just shot somebody who was trying to harm these people. Never says how he was trying to harm or proving that he would have harmed. Never says that. And then he says, I realized I just shot an off-duty officer and a homeowner.
Should we go off the record and take a break?
Okay, so he broke down, they take a break, and when they come back, they say, hey, we didn't talk about the case, nobody talked about the case, we're just continuing the interview.
Okay. Sure. Let John come back and finish.
Clarify, we took the break so John could work to regain some composure. There were no discussions about this event with detectives or John or myself. This was simply a break for practical purposes.
Okay, I need to also clarify, I've got this on 1.25 speed. So if you watch this in regular time, it goes much slower. I've got this sped up just a little bit. So before somebody comes here and accuses me, man, you tried to speed it up and make him sound like he was talking fast. Whatever. For time's sake, it's sped up, people.
Just to allow John to work through efforts to regain some of that composure.
It has to do more with radio traffic.
Okay.
So you talked about a description, the last description. What was that description again? A 10?
So the last.
Okay, so he kind of asked a question, but he gassed it so mealy-mouse that you ain't going to get an answer. So he goes, you talked about last description. He should have asked, what was the first description? How many descriptions did you hear? And what were the difference in the three descriptions? Because you referenced the last description. I want to know how many descriptions you heard and what were they? We don't know. We'll never know. He's going to get to explain the last description, which is still pretty vague.
Updated description was a dark-skinned,
Sounds like he's flipping through notes and reading notes. I'm not too sure on that. I want to know what he remembers. I don't want to know what he can read and quote. What do you remember? As you sit here today, what do you remember? I want to get that for an answer. Then I'll let him go back and refresh his recollection and go through his report and see if he changed it. But I want to know what you remember today.
The dark over white shirt, I think you said.
Yeah, white male.
So the investigator just coached him and said, with a white shirt. He coached him. And when he said the description was a dark-skinned male, I would have asked, when you shot the person that you thought was him, did he have dark skin? He would have said, I don't know. See, I mean, you can pick apart this general, he matched the description. Well, how did he match the description? I'll get you to say you didn't know whether he was dark skinned or not. Did you know what kind of top? You know what kind of bottom? Do you know if they had the same? Were they different? I can ask all those, and then when you go, I thought he matched the description, it's like, you just told me you didn't see the color of skin, you didn't see the hair, you didn't see that. But they're not after the truth. This is a bullshit interview, and I just don't like it. It's bullshit.
A dark over white shirt, long sleeve shirt.
Dark over white shirt. What the hell does that mean?
Jeans.
Okay.
And jeans. Did the homeowner have jeans? Did they both have jeans? Do you know what the homeowner was wearing? Do you know what color jeans? Were they black jeans or blue jeans? Were they white jeans? No, I just knew they were jeans. None of these questions are asked.
Did you have any other descriptions prior to that
We did.
that you heard, that you recall?
The other black undershirt, a white long sleeve shirt with a black undershirt.
White long sleeve shirt with black undershirt. Did the homeowner have a long white shirt on? I mean, that's a pretty good description. If the homeowner was not wearing a white long sleeve shirt. How the hell do you say he matched the description of this guy? Now, he could say, well, in my experience and when working the roads, I'm familiar with criminals, and a lot of times they'll layer their clothes, and sometimes they'll shed clothing. So the fact that he didn't have a long white sleeve shirt on could have meant that he pulled it off, etc. So that didn't, I mean, that may be true. But did he think of that, and is that why he shot, and that's what he believed? No, he didn't believe it. He got out, and he shot too damn fast. He made a mistake, and an innocent guy is dead, and he's walking on it because it's bullshit.
There were prior descriptions of a dark-skinned male wearing sweats.
So when you were
So he's wearing sweats now. Is it blue jeans or sweats? What? I'm confused now. What the hell was the guy wearing? These detectives don't clear up shit. They ought to go work for freaking the same ones that interviewed freaking Alec Baldwin. Those two female detectives sucks. These two male detectives suck. Maybe they don't suck. Maybe they're just covering his ass and helping him out. That could be the difference.
arrived, you mentioned that you gave commands. Do you remember what those commands were?
You mentioned you gave commands. Do you remember what those were? That's good. But I want to know how many. He's asking, do you remember what they were? No, how many commands did you give? When you said commands, how many did you give? Because he may say 3. Then I'll ask him, do you remember what your first command was? What was your second command? What was your third command? Did you see any change in his behavior? Why did you give the third command after the first and second command? None of these questions are asked.
I remember I gave a command of get on the ground.
I remember I gave a command to get on the ground. These cops don't ask when. Before you got out of the car, while you were getting out of the car, after you got on the car, before you fired, after you fired, did you have your sight on him? Was your gun? When did he rack around him and make his gun hot? Before he got out of the car or after he got out of the car? I don't know. We don't know because these cops don't ask.
I remember there was someone to my left also yelling some sort of command. I can't tell you.
Oh, so now I remember someone on my left yelling commands. Do you know what they said? Why do you think they didn't shoot? And why did you shoot? You both yelled commands. You were both there. You both assumingly saw the same thing. Why do you think you shot and he didn't? What was different? Rick, you get it. That's not fair. Whatever. It's freaking soft shoe bullshit interview.
Tell you what that was. But I
You just don't recall?
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I just.
Investigator helping him. So you just don't recall? Yeah, I don't recall. That's how you help somebody when they might be digging themselves a hole. See, if he'd have let him go, he might have started improvising or pulling up facts or saying something that he shouldn't say. And the detective was like, let me give you an out. So you just don't recall. Yeah, okay. I mean, and I've done that to suspects that I didn't think should be charged, and I didn't want them to talk and give a statement. They were like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Give a statement. And I'm like, dude, are you sure you don't want to exercise your right to remain silent? You don't have to talk to me. No, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, dude, do you maybe want to consult with a lawyer or somebody before you talk to me? No, I want to talk. I'm like, fuck, I can't help you. So I've tried to help suspects that I didn't want to get caught up in the legal system and get screwed that way. These cops are doing this to that cop. That's what they're doing.
Just don't recall what that was. But I yelled, get on the ground.
You did?
Yeah.
Do you remember how many times?
I'm not sure. I know at least once when I.
So now, later in the interview, we're not sure how many times, and at least once. Well, earlier you said you gave commands. Which one is it? You gave one for sure, or you gave commands and now you don't know what the other ones were, or now you remember only giving one. Which one is it? You've got to lock people down and question them to give your interview credibility. You got to at least try to present the perception that you're trying to get to the truth. These guys don't do that at all. This is a bullshit interview. Wow.
Initially got out of my car and addressed that person. I yelled, get on the ground.
And you yelled it loud and...
Yeah.
Now we're coaching. And you yelled it loud? How about when you yelled it? How did you say it? Was your siren on? Do you think he could have heard you over a siren? Were your lights on? You said the other officer was yelling. Was yours louder than his? Or was his louder than yours? Which one was it? These are all pertinent facts that would make this interview look reasonable. Wow. Did y'all play the drinking game on this video? Because I know y'all like to play a drink game when I say something a lot. Take a drink every time I say bullshit, because this interview is bullshit.
I'm sorry, you just
Yes,
kind of whispered
very,
that
yeah,
response.
very loud. Sorry. Yeah.
Did you ever identify yourself as a sheriff's deputy or police officer?
Not verbally, just through my patrol car and the light bar.
Not verbally, just through my patrol car. This is not a freaking answer to the question. Did you identify yourself? That means, did you verbally say, Sheriff's Department, Police Department? I mean, I don't have a problem with his answer. No, I didn't say that. I assumed that he knew who I was because I had my lights on and my siren. I was in a police unit, and I was in a police uniform, and I had a badge on. But I did not verbally say. He would have got credibility for answering honestly. He's not. They are both working in unison to not say anything wrong to do a bullshit interview. He doesn't answer whether, not verbally, but through my patrol car and through my lights. That's not how you identify yourself. Identifying yourself is orally and verbally saying, I am a police officer. Yeah, I identified myself. I had a police unit. It was parked around the corner, but that's how I identified myself.
And lights activated and, my uniform, stuff like that. So I believed that person who desperately wanted in that house.
I believe that person desperately wanted in the house. I believe that too. It was his house. He was trying to save his wife. He had just been stabbed and he was chasing a guy. He was chasing a criminal. He picked up a gun in front of your patrol car and never pointed it at you, threatened you, or anything. He ran away with the gun. Yeah, but he would have killed everybody. I had to save the people inside. But you didn't save him. You actually killed the guy who owned the house. How do you rationalize that? This guy should say, I rationalize it because in the fluid situation that I was in, and when I got there, I saw a white long sleeve shirt. And the suspect had a white, and that guy that I shot had a white long sleeve shirt, which matched the description of a fleeing violent felon. And that person armed himself and ran and started kicking the doors. I would believe that. I still think it's a bullshit shoot because he had the option not to shoot and he chose to shoot when he didn't know. Bullshit.
If he made it, they were dead.
Who was dead?
The innocent people that lived in that house were dead.
Did you ever feel fear for your life? Okay.
I'm sorry, you nodded your head, but you need to respond.
Oh.
So somebody said, you nodded your head, you need to respond. I'm assuming he ought to know because when he answers, he says no.
No, sorry. Yeah. No, I did not fear.
You never did fear
No.
for your life?
That's the first kind of reasonable question these guys have asked. At least they got down to one of the elements of justifying deadly force. One question.
But you did fear for the lives of...
Now we're coaching him. Now we're giving him the other answer. But you did fear for the life of others, right? Right? Wink, wink. You did fear for the life of others, right? What kind of fucking bullshit interview is that? I mean, that would never happen in a courtroom because the other attorney would, Your Honor, it's leading. It was asked. He answered his own question. He's feeding the witness answers. That's what would happen in a courtroom. It's happening here.
of others.
Yes, very much so.
Yes, very much so. Yes, very, very, very. I was very, very serious. Very worried. Very worried. I jumped out. In a matter of, I think when I saw the video, by the time he gets out of the car, he shoots under at least maybe 2 seconds. He shoots freaking fast. So he's screaming, he's yelling, he's evaluating, he's seeing clothes, he's catching eye contact with a guy, he's watching a guy go into the door, he's watching a guy come out. All this, and he decides to shoot in under 2 seconds. Bullshit. Take a drink.
At what moment did you realize you'd have to use deadly force?
At what moment did you realize you had to use deadly force? This is a soft shoe answer. He wants him to say, he wants him to articulate, when he was trying to get in the house with the gun, I feared for the safety of those inside the house, and I thought he was going to kill somebody, and I thought I had to shoot him. I made that decision at the moment I fired the gun. If he says anything like, I made the decision as soon as I pulled up, bullshit. Even though that's true, that's probably what he should answer. When did you decide to use deadly force? As soon as I saw him pick up the gun, I knew I was going to shoot him. That would be an honest answer. It's bullshit, but it would be an honest answer. I don't know what he answers.
When I yelled, "Get on the ground," and I didn't get any response, even an acknowledgement, and that I was already there and received no acknowledgement that I was there.
That's not true. He did receive acknowledgement he's there. The guy picked up the gun, looked at him, never pointed it, never threatened, and ran to the house. The guy did acknowledge he was there. Bad answer, but he's not called on it.
And that it was clearly evident. The only thing separating that person from harming the people on the inside, I believe the innocent homeowners, was the...
So it was clear to me that the only thing stopping that man from harming the innocent people inside was the door. But in fact, the people on the inside were already in harm's way because the suspect was in there. This was actually the off-duty cop trying to get to his wife. That's what fact was. Yeah, but I didn't know that. I mean, the cop can answer for himself. I didn't know that. I realize you didn't know that. That's why I'm trying to understand why you shot when you didn't know. I mean, I would get this guy to say, I don't know, a bunch of times in this interview. And with all these I don't knows, you still decided to shoot and take a life. You fired a round that you can never call back. You took a life, and you said during this interview, I don't know, 15 times. They don't ever get him to say, I don't know, I don't think. Not well as really relevant.
The door. And it was at that moment that I thought, he's actively trying to take that barrier away. If he doesn't, I have to stop him.
Okay.
So that's the moment I decided to use force.
He's actually trying to get in the house. I can't really hear everything he's saying. But at that moment, I knew I had to do something. You didn't have to do anything. Okay, let's get that clear. You never have to pull a trigger. Nobody can order you to pull the trigger. Nobody can make you pull the trigger. Everyone that pulls the trigger is a personal choice and decision that you make. And that you made, and you were wrong, and you shot the wrong person. How do you justify that? Make this guy answer some fucking questions. Bullshit.
Do you believe there was any time or distance or shielding that was any kind of an option?
I didn't believe any of that was an option. It happened.
Bullshit question and bullshit answer. Do you believe there was any shield or anything? We aren't talking about shielding. He's already said I wasn't in fear of my life. Why should he worry about shielding or distance? He wasn't in fear of his life. The only time I'm worried about shielding or distance is when I'm in fear of my life and I have no shielding or distance and he can engage me quickly and therefore I had to shoot to save my life. Shielding and distance makes no... He's at the front door. He's not endangering my life. And the officer answers, no, I didn't think. He answers the question like he actually thought about that. He didn't think about that because it's irrelevant.
Distance or shielding that was any kind of an option?
I didn't believe any of that was an option. It happened so fast.
What he should have asked was, did you have any other options? And if he said no, I would ask, did you consider any other options? And if he said no, I would say, why? Why not? Well, I was worried about the people inside and I had to save them. But the suspect never pointed a gun at you. And he didn't shoot anybody in a robbery. And you knew there was an off-duty officer there. And the person you shot did not have, I guarantee you, did not have a long-sleeve white shirt on. And you told us today that you heard that description of a long-sleeve white shirt. The suspect, in fact, did have a long-sleeve white shirt when he came out. But you shot a guy without a white. How do you explain that? Rick, you're just being mean because you don't like cops. I don't like lying, bullshitting government employees that cover their ass. Meanwhile, if it was a pesky citizen up there, they would be hanging his ass out to dry. I don't like double standards. I don't like people that abuse their position of power. That's what I don't like. Get it right.
I didn't see any alternative.
I didn't see any alternative.
Did you believe there was any other force options at your disposal?
I did not.
Do you believe in any other force? No, I didn't. Really? Why not? Could you have not shot? Could you have just continued to challenge? Could you have waited to see if he kicked down the door? Could you have waited and asked a couple questions and maybe got more acknowledged? Could you have waited till he turned around and pointed a gun at you and was a threat to you? Could you have done any of those things? No, I couldn't have done any of that. I had to shoot him. That's bullshit!
Given the rapid pace of how it was happening, the short amount of distance, and that the person being armed with a gun, I did not.
It was reported that after you made the comments, fuck, fuck, fuck. Do you recall that?
Yeah. Cops always do that when they fuck up and they see their life flash by. Fuck, fuck, fuck. I mean, shit. I've done that when people got away. I've done that when they, tossed a gun out over a freaking bridge in the freaking river. So I go, fuck, I didn't get the gun. I mean, big deal. Of course he said that. At that point, he knew he messed up. A better question would be, when you said fuck, 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 why did you think you had fucked up? Or did you think you fucked up? Yes. Why did you think that? Because somebody said, that's the cop. Well, when they said that, did it go through your mind that the description was different? No. Did it go through your mind that maybe you shot too fast? No. Did it go through your mind that maybe you should have waited a little bit longer and identified your target before you shot? No. See, when I get those questions, it makes them look like you're full of shit. You're just giving me answers to cover your ass. You're not being truthful. This was a bullshit interview.
I do not, but I could probably imagine that.
Okay.
I can tell you that it was a blur there for a little while, and
Also, now it's a blur.
I felt hollowed out.
Okay, so he felt hollowed out. Yeah, because he found out he shot somebody that he shouldn't, of course. But that doesn't matter on why he chose to shoot and why he didn't take other things like waiting, identifying his target, asking questions, wondering, maybe questioning, the guy picked up a gun, he really didn't point it at me. Is he really in danger? Maybe that's the off-duty cop. Maybe that's why he didn't point it at me. Maybe that's why he turned his back and ran into the house, because he was the homeowner. Did any of that cross your mind? No. Why? Because I knew if he got in there, he'd kill everybody. Why do you believe that? That's not reasonable. Jeez.
Very much gutted at that point. So
Did you know the officer
I did not.
on or on duty? Have you ever had any interaction with him or training?
Nope.
Right here, they coach him again. And this is a typical lawyer thing. That's why I was wondering if there's a lawyer in there or one of the detectives. He says, I never knew the guy. I've never seen him before. He should have said, not that I remember ever seeing him. I may have crossed paths. I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing or meeting him. That would have been a better answer. But he gave an answer, no, I never saw him before. And the cop comes in and saves him. So in case later it comes out that they actually worked a case together, it won't look like he's lying. Watch this cop come in and save the day with his super blue cape on.
I did not.
Did you ever meet him?
I've never met him.
I'm guessing that's to your recollection, correct? I mean,
Yeah, to my recollection,
Dun, 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 save the day! He just said, I never met him. He misspoke. I mean, to me, it's not a big deal. But for the cop to come in and save him, I believe that's to the best of your recollection. You never met him, right? Maybe the cop knows they met before. Maybe he knows they worked a case. Maybe he knows their wives play. Maybe the cop knows something and he goes, man, he just stepped on his dick and I've got to save him. Let me throw in to the best of your recollection and help you out. I mean, is that really a critical thing? Not really, but it just goes to the dishonesty of this interview and the bullshit of this interview.
I can't think of a
this
time
is
I've
about
ever
over, too.
come in contact with him. If I have, it would have been in some passing. I didn't know who he was.
Do you believe that as a reasonable officer, in the light of all the facts and circumstances you knew at the time the threat was posed to you, that you had no other option or alternative?
This is such a freaking lollipop question and answer. I just can't believe it. He basically justified the shooting and has this guy say yes. So he could have just said, hang on a second, let me read the definition of deadly force. The definition of deadly force is using that force which could cause serious bodily injury and or death when you're in fear of your life or the life of others. He could have just read that. So let me ask you a question, officer. The use of deadly force is only authorized when you fear for your life or the life of others. You already said that you didn't fear for anyone else's life, and then you said you fear for them. Is it reasonable for you to say that you shot because you feared for other people in accordance with Penal Code section blah, blah, blah? Is that fair to say? And the cop would go, yes. I mean, that's basically what he should have done with this softball freaking question, getting it out.
And some passing, I didn't know who he was.
Do you believe that as a reasonable officer, in the light of all the facts and circumstances you knew at the time the threat was posed to you, that you had no other option or alternative than to use deadly force?
I do.
I do. Shit, they should have got married. I do. Do you take this question to save your ass from going to prison? I do. Okay, perfect. Bullshit interview. I mean, I can't believe an interview for our freaking homicide investigation where somebody died and the cop shot the wrong person. The entire interview was 14 minutes. 14 minutes! I would have had this guy for at least an hour or two. 14 minutes was the entire interview. Are you kidding me? Bullshit interview. These guys, Detective Christensen, Detective Sergeant Tate, you guys are blue line freaking posers. It is a bullshit interview. Please don't interview anybody that ever kills me because you guys suck. Okay? How about that? You like apples? How you like those apples? Well, in that there, more earning the hate from cops protecting cops and having no credibility or integrity whatsoever. Well, and the DA is just as bad because the DA released this saying, hey, this is why I'm not charging the guy. It clearly falls under deadly force. The guy gave a statement that he was clearly in fear, and it doesn't matter if it's true, if his fear is reasonable. His fear appeared to be reasonable, therefore I can't charge. It's not my fault. Change the law. Bullshit. Well, in that there.